It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Yeah, baby, this week starring the lovely, the charming, the soon-to-be leaving us, Briagha McTavish. And thank you, fake audience. Thank you, fake band. And welcome to the big show, Bria. She's on my side of the desk today.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Let's say hello.
I've got my tiara and veil.
Oh, yes. My wife rigged that up for Bria because Bria is leaving us to move back to the Midwest, as you read in the email. But just for those of you who didn't read the email, she's leaving Taxi. Today is her last day. And she's moving to, going back to Indiana and then Kentucky eventually.
Yes, Lexington, Kentucky. So I'll be moving there on July 15th.
What happened to Louisville? I thought you were going to Louisville.
It's complicated because we'll be in Lexington for 1 year and then Louisville the next.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So.
All right. So, so we're making her wear. Anyway, I'm excited. This is going to be a hard episode to get through. Anyway, hello everybody. Let me say hello to you guys. Linda Cullum, Sherry Marcus Milano, Nancy Colell, Martin Gravel, Daryl Berman, Alex Dillon, Linda Cullum, Joseph Alonzo, The Element, Lamar Franklin, Peter Rahill, Spiritual, Mojo Bone, I think I said Joseph Alonzo already, Alan McCool, Neil McTavish, Bria's dad is in the house. Yo,
hey,
Neil, how are you, buddy?
All right, I'm going to take off.
Yeah, I kidnapped your kid. Yeah, she made herself look all purty today for the show, and then we made her dress up like something out of who's the guy that does those weird Christmas movies?
Tim Burton.
Yeah, like she's out of a Tim Burton movie or something.
That's okay. I liked it.
Terrell Bird, hey. Let's see. Renz Uberg, just on time. Yes, you are. Andre Stepanian, Dean Turner, Neil McTavish again. Anyway, so I just thought it would be fitting to have Bria on the show today. So I'm just going to start working my questions right now. So it says Michael does intro. I'm going to do an intro. So, I have a hard, fast rule, which is I never hire Taxi members or friends of the family to work at Taxi. You're the first and the only.
There you go.
And that's because she started out as a Taxi member when you were how old?
Well, my dad was a member, and I went to my first rally when I was 14.
Wow.
So, but he was a member. I don't know. He could probably sound off when he joined, but my dad joined because he saw an ad, and I think electronic
musician. Wow.
Or keyboard magazine or something like that.
Yeah, probably EM. We were in there for like 15 years or something.
Yeah, so he had joined, and then I guess he always wanted to go, and then once I was really starting to get interested in songwriting, then he was like, oh, I should take Bria.
So let's talk about how you got interested in songwriting, because you started pretty young, right? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, we were always surrounded by music in my house, so always, and I grew up playing classical too, so I started piano at 4.
Cello?
No,
I play viola.
Right. And I play piano. So I started piano at 4 and violin at 6. But I would write little like ditties and stuff on the piano when I was really little. I think the first like song I wrote was called Snowman Blues.
Aww.
I can kind of remember it, so I think there's a video
melts my heart.
Yeah.
There's a joke in your favorite song that I've ever heard you do is Sick, which I think that's your signature tune right there.
Yeah, I always introduce that at shows as the first song that I wrote that I liked.
Yeah.
So
it's good. It's catchy.
Yeah, but really that song came out of going to the rally and applying what I learned.
So let me see. And by the way, today. Whoa, I'm out of the frame. Today is her last official day, but she's going to. First of all, we're going to keep her on for a few weeks, just to tie up loose ends and stuff, even though she'll be out of town. But then I'm sure she'll be back for future road rallies. I would be heartbroken if you didn't come back.
Oh, well, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, we would love to have you back. I'm trying to, because I covered so much already. So let's continue down the path of how you started making music. So you did viola, you did piano,
Yeah.
and you also play guitar now.
Yeah, but I didn't learn acoustic until I was like 12.
Yeah.
I started learning it. And I really, like, I just use a capo and I know like 5 chords. So, and then I can finger pick, so it makes me look like I'm better than I am.
Wow, deep
So
dark
I always
secrets.
say that I fake that I'm good at the guitar, but I can just finger pick. That's it.
So, at what point did you realize? I mean, who else was musical in the family? I know your dad, was into like engineering and production stuff. So, did you grow up around him making music and writing songs?
He didn't, I guess, do a ton of like production when we were younger. I think he started getting into it actually because because he joined Taxi. So he was, he's always written music. Like he was in a band in Winnipeg. They were #1 on the radio in Dauphin, Manitoba.
Wow.
And so they would go and play there, and they'd think they were like a big deal. He's like, wow.
Did he have long hair?
Yeah, my dad had like probably blonde hair as long as mine. I bet it looks similar to mine. He can tell you if it does, but
Neil, I want to see a
it was
picture
in
of you being a
in
hippie,
the 70s
dude.
and the 80s, so it was longer, maybe not cut like this though. But yeah, he played keys in his band, and I think a little bit guitar, and he would write and stuff. But then obviously, well, he's an engineer too by trade. My mom's a doctor. And
An engineer, like a legit engineer, not just an audio
yeah,
engineer.
an industrial engineer.
Right.
So he worked for like Boeing and Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
So back in Canada. But when we moved to the States, he stayed at home with us. So he really got us into music, but also my mom too. She's always had really good taste in music. Like they say that when they got married, both of them, they combined their record collection. They only had one record in common.
Wow.
And my dad said that my mom had all the records that he wished he had gotten, and then he had all the records that my mom wished she had gotten too. So
Well, that was a marriage that was meant to be. I mean,
Yeah.
what defines a marriage better than your record collections mesh?
yeah, but my mom's always good at she discovered a lot of my favorite bands from when I was in junior high. She would get me CDs and she started listening to Colby Calais before she got super big, and got me the
Wow.
CD and got me into a lot of my favorite bands.
So who were a lot of your favorite bands and artists back then?
Back then, well, I definitely listened to that Colby Calais CD a lot. I loved
Which one? The one that had
Coco, the one that had the very famous one, Bubbly.
What was it?
Bubbly.
Bubbly, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow. Hold on a minute. Wasn't that in what year was that? It seems like it was more recent than that.
No,
but
it was probably 2006 or 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we literally have watched you grow up from a kid.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of back further because I was in my first rally was when I was 14, so that was
So I've known you for
11 years ago. So
Yes, I've known.
2009
Wow, 11 years already.
or 2008, I think it was.
I've got to admit, I don't think I've ever told you this, but there have been times where it's been hard for me to be your boss because, first of all, you met my daughter Hannah at a rally. We can talk about that in a second.
That's a great story.
But, we always felt I think I said to your dad at one point, just know that if Bria ever needs anything out here in L.A., we got her covered. But it was hard to treat you, especially in the very beginning, as an employee when I knew you as a friend and as a Taxi member.
Mm-hmm.
You start out as a member, but we became friendly.
Yeah.
And like I said in the beginning of the show, we never hire friends or members because, either they leave.
Sorry.
Either they leave or they get fired or so, I mean, nothing lasts forever. And I would never want to be in that position. So Bria either emailed or called one day.
I called you.
Yeah, and we'd known each other at that point for, 5, 6, 7 years or something, from you coming to the road rally and volunteering all the time.
Yeah.
You and your dad are the lead volunteers.
Yeah.
They've done so much. The two of them have unloaded more Taxi road rally trucks than anybody. I mean, if you added up what all the other people have unloaded versus the McTavishes, they win. So
I think close second is Clark Van Norris.
Oh, absolutely.
I think, or about the same.
Yeah.
Because I remember he helped. I don't know if he was there my first year, but I think, yeah, like from second
And you
year
and
on.
Clark have teamed up on getting the taxi started and out of the garage several times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So-
it's not as scary to drive anymore because the brakes are fixed.
I haven't driven it since we got the brakes fixed, but
Yeah.
I wrote the check and it was a lot more than I thought it would be. It was like $1,100 to get those brakes fixed.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, so I remember seeing Bria at the rally and thinking, oh, that's cute, because, I've got a daughter, Hannah, who's a year or two younger than Bria, and she was starting to do music at some point, and we'd had some security issues, so we wouldn't let our kids identify themselves as our kids. There were like a half a dozen road rallies where they could go, but they had to remain anonymous and like not talk to me and not hang out with Deb. And I remember that rally, we told Hannah, you can sit in the ballroom, just don't act like you're my kid. Act like anybody else there, and try and hang out by somebody that looks like, somebody safe. Because we didn't know if the crackpot was going to show up at the rally or not. And didn't she end up sitting by you guys?
Yeah, so it was my first rally, and Hannah sits next to me. And I was like, I didn't say anything because I'm more outgoing now, but I was very, very shy. And I typically am a little shy with people I don't know.
Yeah.
So I didn't say anything to her. She just sat next to me. And then the next year, I think, or 2 years later, we ended up talking because I went to, there's this program called the Hollywood Immersive. It's I call it a boot camp for rich Australians.
Right.
And so I ended up doing that and meeting Hannah and she was like, yeah, I remember you. I sat next to you because I was pretending, that you were my sister and that your dad was my dad. So that people would think that she was with us.
Right.
And I was like, and I remember my dad being like, I feel like that. I think that's Michael's daughter. But I didn't say anything.
Some people say we look a lot alike. I don't see it.
I think you guys look a lot alike.
Hannah and I look at each other and go, really? But whatever. So I remember that you and Hannah kind of bonded. And I remember I spoke at that Hollywood Immersive thing.
Yes.
And so I already knew you, but
Yes.
and you actually got to stay because you were so young. You stayed with Stephen Memel and his wife at the time, right?
Yeah, so I wasn't I was taking vocal and performance lessons from Stephen Memel, who's amazing. If you guys need someone,
I need to get him back on the show.
He's literally the best, but he was helping out with this and they needed more people, so he contacted me and I was able to get I guess a deal, and so I didn't stay at the villa because I wasn't paying the full thing. So that's why I was staying with Stephen. And
it's better that you didn't stay at the villa. It would have been too much debauchery for a kid your age.
There was no debauchery.
Really?
No. We were all around the same age.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, in our program, I think the oldest person was 21.
What
so
about
it
the
was
other thing
ranged
that
from
ran?
15 to 21 or something.
There was a thing that ran. Well, 21-year-olds. I mean, they're into shooting heroin and stuff, right?
Well, no one in that group was. There was no debauchery going on there.
But they also
the hosting group was there too, and they were older. But yeah, no, it wasn't. There was no debauchery.
Oh, so I always thought
I even ended up staying there one night, and it wasn't. It was very.
It was like one of those, like a Big Brother type house in the Hollywood Hills. Really cool house. But concurrently with the music thing, they did these people like TV hosts, presenter types. Every time when I see that lady doing, did you use talcum powder? Do you have cancer? There's one lady that does every form of that commercial.
Oh, yeah?
And every single night I see her on TV and I think, I'll bet you anything she did the immersion.
But yeah, no, it was very tame, and we just we worked way harder than they did, though. That was for sure.
Yeah.
It was sun up to sundown, and we were supposed to write a whole song during the weekend with no time.
And then record it.
And we recorded it during the week, and it was amazing. It was a really good experience and awesome, and that got to talk to you more. And I remember you saying there too at that when you came and talked that you wouldn't hire someone that hadn't had a college education. Guess what? I didn't go to college.
Well, you are inherently really smart anyway. So, and frankly, I mean, you know how I feel about college education. It's a sore subject for me. On one hand, it's like, it's nice to have the diploma to say I got it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think that most kids' diplomas are kind of worthless because if
Yeah.
they're anything like me, they probably partied their way through school for 4 years. I didn't inhale, just saying.
Oh my God.
I didn't. Really, I didn't. I watched other people a lot. And I don't know. I just don't agree with the way college is done anymore.
Yeah.
If you're going to go to law school, if you're going to be a doctor, I think college obviously is necessary. But
Yeah.
it's a growth experience. But you got your growth experience when you moved out here.
Yeah. So I moved out here at 20. I was really lucky, or I would say even I was very blessed because my parents supported me. They helped me get out here. My dad and I drove out here, and then he was like, "Bye." So
He cried all the way back. I'm sure.
I don't know. We'll have to ask him.
Come on, Neil. You cried, right?
My dad says, "Bring the treats back." Yeah, he agrees with you about college.
Yeah.
Do I still write or perform live? I still write. I actually do a lot of writing with my church now, but I don't perform a lot. I play like in the worship band at my church. So, to answer your question,
we're going to talk about that. So, Bria called me, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, Bria, how are you?" And she goes, "I'm moving to LA. Can I have a job?"
Well, I said, "Do you need any help with the rally?"
And as it turned out, we actually did. And her first job at Taxi was doing outbound calls. "Hey, it's Bria from Taxi. The road rally's coming up in 3 months, blah, blah, blah." And because she knew the rally so well as an attendee, that she could explain it as well as the most experienced staff member. So it was you and I think maybe Deb.
Me and Deb were doing calls.
Yeah, and the
it was
two of them are like powering through these calls, just doing amazing numbers. And we all just fell in love with you. You felt like you were part of the family, which you already were before you even started working there. But I don't know, you just fit in really well. And I remember talking to Deb about it and probably talking to Angel about it. Say, I know we've got a hard, fast rule, but she's going to be a real asset to the staff. And you're a tremendous asset to the staff.
Thanks.
I'm going to try not to cry. But yeah, she's been amazing. I mean, there's nothing you can't throw at Bria that she won't take on. She is absolutely fearless, sometimes a little too fearless, maybe. She's brave. But you've always been a great asset to the staff. And beloved by, as I said in the letter, beloved by everybody on the staff,
Aw. Yeah, well, the staff is awesome. I mean, we've become definitely like a family.
I always say the Manson family, but in a good way. But you also came to work there at kind of a weird time. I was going through a lawsuit, which really took me like 80% of my focus every day was not the staff and not the company. It had to be in this lawsuit. And there were staff members I didn't particularly care for. It was not our most shining moment with the staff.
Yeah.
And here's this sweet young Midwestern girl. And I always worried that you were like exposed to all this tension and vitriol and stuff. But I'm really glad that you've gotten to spend your last 2 years on the staff with the staff we've got now, which is like, equal to the best we've ever had, if not better than.
Oh yeah, the staff is amazing. Everyone like cares so much. The A&R team's killing it. They're like absolutely killing it.
Drowning in listings.
I know, which is something like I never thought would happen. So,
I know,
which is so awesome.
Yeah,
so they're killing it, and just like our member services team, you guys probably get to interact with them, but they're awesome. Care so much about helping you guys out. So it's just awesome to be like on such a good team. So.
Your dad says in the chat it was a transitional, not traditional. Yes, a transitional time. It was, and being a dad of a daughter close to your age and having 4 daughters, I would worry about you that you were exposed to all this stuff, but you're such a scrappy little sucker that on one hand, well, you are, I mean, you're pretty confident and mature for your age, but I did quietly and secretly worry that you were being exposed to a lot of stuff that I wouldn't want my kid to be working around. So I'm glad you made it through and got to see the good stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's any experience, it shapes whatever, you do.
So if you grow up as, you can blame us for everything.
Okay,
bad.
there you go. Yeah, if I have a problem in my marriage, I'll
right,
just
that's right. Just say it's Taxi's fault. So,
I think Jacob's watching. I think I saw him compliment me.
Aw.
So yeah, Jacob, if I am weird at all, it's Taxi's fault.
That's right. Specifically my fault, probably, because I get blamed for everything sooner or later. Let's go back to talking about when you started making music at home with your dad, because that was another. Now it's like true confession day for me. It's supposed to be all about you, but it's really about me confessing all this stuff to you. I remember when I met you and your dad at the rally thinking, oh gosh, another kid with a parent, who's involved in their stuff. And both of you guys, from where I sat, handled it with such grace and aplomb. It was actually like you guys really enjoyed working together, at least from what I saw, which is rare. I mean, what kid wants to do stuff with their parents? But it says a lot about your family.
Yeah, well, we've always been a very close family. I mean, we've always done music together. Like my sister's a professional violinist; she's very good, and we always did music together. But I think once I started to get an interest, my dad did a really good job of not just being like, oh my gosh, you're so great. He was like, Bria, you need to work on this, and that's why he took me to the rally, so that I could learn how to write better. And then as a little kid, I was like, I'm gonna get famous and I want to do all my songs. And my dad's like, you need to be open to writing for other people and all this stuff. He's like, it's not just about what you want to do.
Did you?
Sorry, I just read my dad said that he accompanied both of us on our instruments until we could kick his butt. It's hidden because he says doesn't say butt.
Were there moments where you're like, Dad? Did you guys co-write?
Yes, yeah, we would co-write, and it was obviously at first, and sometimes I would be because I was 12, 13 when we were starting to work together. So
and
that's the worst
age.
time.
Yeah,
to work with a teenager is when they're that age.
That's an evil age. My experience is 13 was when all my kids became evil.
I think he kind of, really, I think he started, pushing me and being like, well, you need to, but they were, I grew up taking lessons too. Grew up taking classical lessons. So I knew, and my parents were always about you need to respect your teacher, you need to practice and stuff. So I kind of had a good grasp on taking criticism and stuff. But writing together was great because at that age I was young, so I was a little bit elementary in my lyric craft. It would just be I love you, all my songs,
that sounds like today's pop music.
Yeah, exactly. So it was great getting to write with him, and he has a different style of writing. His lyrical style is a little more storytelling, and we'd kind of write together. So my first EP that we put out pretty much is full co-written. Most of it is lyrics he wrote and music that I wrote.
And you didn't feel oh my gosh, he's so old and his perspective just doesn't fit with my music? Sorry, Neil. I don't mean that old, but you know what I'm saying.
No, because I don't know. I never just listened to teeny bopper music.
Right.
So I think maybe that's why, because I grew up on Elton John. I grew up on Supertramp, on the Beatles, on that. Those were the things that I listened to. So I really enjoyed good lyric craft. And then once I got older, listening to other bands and stuff. But I was never really a big teeny bopper music person. I really appreciate big pop music, the Ariana Grande. I love that stuff. I think it's great. But I didn't really grow up on I wasn't allowed to listen to Britney Spears as a young kid, so it just wasn't I think I had a different view of music. So my first stuff was very singer-songwritery and folksy.
Yeah.
So his lyric craft really fit in with that.
What were like your three favorite bands as a 13, 14, 15-year-old or acts?
Definitely, I loved Spoon.
Really?
I don't know if it. Yeah, my mom found that band, and I got really into them.
Yeah.
I listened to a lot of Coldplay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think when I was that age. I got into Lana Del Rey when I was older, but that was like more like later in high school.
I kind of remember when you moved to LA that you once told me that Lana Del Rey was like your inspiration artist of the moment, at least at that stage or something.
Yeah. Like a lot of what I listen to will kind of influence what I put out. I was really into, I think when I was that age, like Foster the People. The Shins.
Really? Some of this is surprising.
Yeah, and then what else did I... Dad, do you know what I like to listen to? I loved Ingrid Michaelson. I really liked that Be Okay album's really good. I liked Regina Spektor. I didn't listen to a ton of her, but I really liked her stuff.
That's funny. You're the only guest I've ever had in the show in 10 years that's ever said, Dad, do you remember?
He probably remembers. Mika. Yeah, that's a band that we like to listen to a lot of Mika and stuff. But my dad and I would always like listen in the car, and we'd like be like listening to like the production and how the drums sounded. We were always obsessed with how the drums sounded.
Wow.
And so when we would listen to other stuff, we'd be like, oh, the drums don't sound that good.
That's pretty, clearly a good influence from your dad on that score. Because,
Yeah.
Let's face it, unless you are a music maker,
Yeah.
the public is, I think, mostly utterly unaware of drum sounds. They would not pick out a drum sound and say, wow, those are great sounding drums. They may enjoy it,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't know what it is. So.
But drums are so important too. But I think the thing is, my dad's always been like a student of music. So when we were working together, we wanted to learn more. So like when we were working on my first EP, we were working with Ronan Chris Murphy as our like coach. So my dad would send him the mix, and then Ronan would be like, okay, tweak this, and then it'd come back and my dad would work on it. So my dad's actually a really good engineer now and mixer and stuff. So he does all my sisters' groups mixing and stuff, and it's awesome to hear, especially because we're not working together much right now because I haven't really been doing that much music lately, but I'm just so happy he's able to use the stuff that he learned working with me for her stuff and her group, which is awesome.
At what point did you have you ever gotten to the point where you felt you were defined well as an artist, or were you still searching? Are you still searching for what your artistic identity is?
Yeah, I got there actually after I moved here.
Yeah.
So
Was that after you dyed your hair black?
I had my hair black since before I moved here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was black, I think, the summer before, because I kept going. I had never dyed my hair until after I turned 18, and I just kept going darker and darker and darker, and obviously couldn't go any darker than black, and I loved it. So I had long black hair. But yeah, once I moved out here, I was like, all of my stuff beforehand had been really like singer-songwriter, and I never produced anything. Mm-hmm. So I would just, write the songs, and then we'd kind of work with someone else or whatever. And then once I moved here, I actually started producing my stuff myself. Yeah. So I produced one of my songs on GarageBand, like just using my computer keyboard, which taught me that's actually a really good thing, using your computer keyboard as your like keyboard, because it makes you be more simple with your arrangements. Oh. Because that would always be my problem, as I would like go like huge chords.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I was gonna say, how do you play a 4-note chord on?
You just go like I'm really good at playing the keyboard on the computer keyboard.
Wow, that's impressive.
I do that a lot. I still do that now. Like I was working on a song the other week and playing bass on the computer keyboard.
I remember that not long after you moved here, you started taking Judy Stakey's classes.
Well, actually,
Or was
I
it
started
before?
working with Judy far before. So I had been working
Ah.
with Judy for a couple of years. Anytime I was here, I would come. She was like my songwriting coach. So I learned a ton from her, and then I kind of petered off taking lessons from her. But I learned so much about songwriting from her.
So for those of you who don't know, Judy Stakey was like vice president of Warner Chappell Music for close to 20 years, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
brilliant.
Her biggest claim to fame is basically Sheryl Crow came to her when she was a backup singer for Michael Jackson and said, "Can you help me find songs? I want to try and get signed as an artist." And Judy listened to her songs and said, "Dude, you're writing great songs." And Judy really is responsible for the launch of Cheryl's
Yeah.
career. And then at some point, Cheryl started teaching, not Cheryl, Judy started teaching these classes. And I remember, because my daughter went to her stuff as well at some point, and I remember arriving early one night, sitting in the living room, listening to all the kids off in the other room.
Yeah.
And Judy had them doing like yoga,
Yeah, of course.
standing on their heads. I'm like,
She never had me do that. I only did private sessions. I never did a class.
okay,
Or a retreat. She does mostly like retreats now, which I hear are very awesome, but I've never been on one.
yeah, Hannah was in a class with about 6 or 7 or 8 people in it. And Hannah always wore skirts. And I remember at one point, Judy's like, "Okay, everybody try and stand on your head." And Hannah's like, that ain't happening. Do you remember when you first came to the road rally as a 14-year-old? Any like first impressions of anything stick out?
Well, first of all, when I got to LA, I was like, it stinks here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, and then when I went home,
You
I was
should
like,
go try New Jersey sometime.
I know,
Sorry.
yeah, but we only went to the Westin, which is by LAX. So I
Right.
was like, when I got home, I was like, guys, LA's gross. It smells bad.
Now it
Because
smells like weed.
I mean, it's obviously the airport. It's not like LA has the most like fresh air. I mean, out
Right.
like in the suburbs and stuff, it's not as bad. But still, it's because I didn't leave the airport. But I was like, oh, it's so gross when I got home. So that was my first impression. And then coming to the rally, I was like, whoa, this is a lot of people. I remember standing in the line, and then my dad and I ended up meeting Betty Anderson in the
Oh, wow.
line, who we had never met, and she was from Kokomo, Indiana, which is like really close to us, and was in the songwriters group there. So that was cool to like meet someone so close. And yeah, and then well, I remember, so we had our one-to-one mentor session, I think right the first day, like in the morning, like right after
who was it?
And it was Mandy Martin.
Oh, wow. Mandy's no longer with us.
Yeah.
But she's from that old hippie school like John Brahaney, Mandy Martin, the LA Songwriter Showcase people.
Yeah,
How
so-
did that go?
Well, I showed her a song. I don't remember what it was called. I think it was just called like I Love You or something. Or wait, One Thing's True. That's what it was called. And it was my first, attempt at like a pop song, or second, but one of them. And it was very elementary. There was no bridge. The chorus was kind of meandering. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't that put together. And I was like, oh, this is great. She's going to love it. And she bobbed her head, but she was like, okay. Now you need to get this book, and you need to, learn about this. She's like, the chorus, there's not really a chorus here. Like, she was just like, you need to learn the craft.
Right.
So that was like my biggest takeaway from the rally. I went to, I didn't play an open mic that year because I was too nervous. And my biggest takeaway was just like, I need to learn the craft of songwriting. And I guess because I was young, probably I could soak it up pretty quick, but I, learned like, okay, yeah, you have to have verse, chorus. It has to be more. I learned how important structure is. So I'm a huge stickler on structure when it comes to songwriting.
Great lesson to learn, because
Yeah.
so many people don't. I know a
Yeah.
lot of very adult people further down the road in years that, well, I've been making music for 30 years. Yeah, but your songs still don't have a chorus, and they need one.
Well, and that's the thing is I feel like too with members, they, you get hurt, because it's personal. Your music is personal. And so you get hurt if someone says, well, you should really have structure. And you're like, well, that's my heart song,
Yeah.
Which is like, yes, but like if it's how much cooler is it if you can get this song into a place where it's going to be inspiring for other people too, not just for you.
Yeah.
So, because that's our job as songwriters, is to tell a story and to, bring out something that somebody else can relate to. So learning that and learning like, yeah, that's what you like, but it's good for you to learn to communicate in a way that people are going to be able to relate to. So that's why structure is important.
The crows are out there.
Yeah, I saw them.
Soon it will be squirrel time. You'll see the squirrels. Sometimes they jump up and run across that table.
Oh,
it's
wow.
Funny. So I had a question I saw on my sheet and I lost it. Oh, so do you remember getting any returns from Taxi when you were a member? Mm-hmm. And how did that make you feel, especially being a relatively young kid? And I say kid in quotes,
Well, yeah, I was sad. But obviously, like, I it helps you deal with rejection. I was like, I did a lot of customs. So I think after our first rally, we were like, okay, let's just work on our craft and do customs. So we would do a lot of custom critiques. That was like all I did. Which they're an amazing tool if you're wanting to work on your writing and stuff, because the screeners are top notch. I mean,
you've seen the company, and literally there's nothing. I didn't talk to Bria before the show and say, can you plug this or talk about that? Mm-hmm. She literally saw about 5 of the questions about 5 minutes before we went online. So you've seen it from both sides, which always has made you great as a staff member. She's now graduated from doing member services to being the producer.
I still do some, though. I still answer
I mean,
phones.
you're the queen of it. You got it down to a science.
I usually take the hard calls.
Right. Oh, speaking of the hard calls, I actually wrote that somewhere in the questions. Didn't somebody?
I have a great story.
Yeah, tell it. Didn't somebody make you cry one time or something?
I don't know if I cried or not. But
I remember there was a doozy.
Anyway, this is great. So the first day I'm at Taxi doing calls for the rally, right? And I'm like, okay. And I call and, I got voicemails for the first 2. And then the third call, I think, was someone picked up. And they were like, and I'm not going to include what he exactly said because it was very profane. And he was like, what do you want? And I was like, this is Bria from Taxi, like, we're calling about the rally. And he was like, what do you want? And then he called me a white, like, B word. And I was like, this is like my third call, and I was like, I hung up the phone.
I can't believe he said that.
Yeah. And this was members. Like, I was calling a member. So I don't know, they must have been in a bad mood, probably drunk or something. Anyway, But anyway, so that happened, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Because it was literally the first call that someone picked up that I made. And I was like...
How did you go through any other calls after getting that one?
I don't want to interrupt a good
conversation.
conversation.
Deb's got to go somewhere. Bye, Mrs. Lasko.
Bye. We're going to miss this one. Oh, I'm not supposed to touch
it's
anybody.
okay.
I'm going to miss her.
It's okay. I've been quarantined.
Me too. All right, see you guys.
Bye, honey. Other observations, like now that you've seen Taxi both as a member and somebody doing member services all these years, what would you say to our members if you could pull all the members who are not quite there yet? The people who aren't Chuck Henry or Matt Vanderboe, people who haven't advanced that far along yet. What would you say to them that you think, what boat are they missing?
I think I would say we're on your side. A lot of times I feel like people call and, we can, calm people down pretty quickly because our staff's awesome and they care so much. But a lot of times we get calls and people are combative or they're upset, or we get emails and stuff, and I think that they feel like we want to be some kind of crazy gatekeeper that, we don't want you to succeed. Like, for us, like, it's so exciting. Every time that we hear about, like, if we get an email, like, I got a deal or I got a placement on this, we'll send it around the whole staff. We're like, that's so awesome. So we're, like, that's the number one thing that I want to say is that we're on your side. And then I would say too, like being able to take criticism, because, you know, it is your baby, it's, you know, it's your dream. So obviously we're sensitive to that, but the screeners want to help you, we want to help you. So I think taking that advice and if you run with it, you'll be able to improve a lot. You know, it's almost like Taxi University, you know?
I like the fact that you mentioned the gatekeeper aspect, because there are a lot of people out there who are not Taxi members, and they see us as gatekeepers, and they don't realize really what we are is enablers.
Oh, yeah.
I guess people are so conditioned over so many decades of the industry's trying to keep me out that they don't understand that we're trying really hard to get them in, but they've got to have the goods.
Well, and that's the thing. If you saw like how hard our A&R team works, like to bring in opportunities, like really awesome opportunities for our members, like we want, like when our members have success, that's a success for us, obviously, you know. So I think realizing like we're on your team, you know, we wanna help with that, but
How have you grown as a result? Obviously, you would have grown with us or without us just by maturing as a person, you know, growing up in years. But how have you grown as a result of maybe dealing with problematic members or dealing with staff issues? How has Taxi helped you grow?
Yeah, I mean, I think learning from members, always being patient with people, you know, even if someone's angry, you can always, you know, reason with them and calm. I don't like to say calm them down, but, you know, that's basically what you're doing, you know, with people. I know for me, usually if someone's having trouble on the phone, another, you know, member services staff, I'll just be like, give it to me. Right. Because I see it as like a challenge, you know, but
that's true. I've seen you do that many a time.
But I think definitely like being patient with people. I have the tendency to be a know-it-all and impatient and stuff. So I think I've grown to, you know, maybe like shut my mouth sometimes. So
that's interesting that you call yourself a know-it-all. Most know-it-alls don't know that they're know-it-alls.
Oh, I know it.
You know you're a know-it-all.
I know I am a know-it-all. And I discovered that too because I've been taking some classes and I was in class and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this is like bringing, you can see how people were in like high school when you take a class with other people, adults. And I was like finding myself like, I know the answer. And then I was like, Briagha, keep your hand down, you know, because yeah, I definitely can be a know-it-all. So I think learning to not just automatically be like, no, or like, oh, well, I know this, you know, like listening to people. And I definitely grown in that because I was 20 when I started at Taxi. So, and I've obviously learned a ton about like marketing and stuff from Michael, more about like the music licensing world. I really didn't know much about. So I know a lot more about that. That's for sure. Yeah, to be able to answer people's questions, obviously. But.
Yeah, I literally don't think that I've seen you get hit with a question that you couldn't answer. So maybe in the beginning, you know, and you would come to me and say, what should I do about that? But now, you know, it's not uncommon for staff members to come to you. How should I do it? You know?
Yeah,
and
usually
you've trained some great staff.
Yeah,
members.
And usually that'll be like with member stuff. People come to me and ask like, oh, what do we do, or like, what's the policy for this with members? But I think too that's another thing that is important. You know, anywhere you're working is it's okay for you not to know. So at the beginning, it was awesome. The person that trained me, who was Henry, who I love. He like was like, well, if you don't know, just ask someone else on the staff. So that was. And I think that was always a part of the atmosphere is it okay to ask questions. So for me, even now, if I get a question I don't know, I just ask someone else, you know, on the staff that has more experience in that. Because I'll get questions like some intricate licensing questions and I'm like, I don't know.
There are questions I don't know all the answers to. I think some people assume that because I own and run Taxi that I know every answer to every question in the world, and I don't.
Yeah, but we have some staff members that have like more like hands-on like experience with music licensing, so they're really good to ask too.
Let's talk about screeners. You've gotten to know many of them over the years. How would you describe the screeners? And you can say anything again, behind the scenes
Okay.
about screeners.
Well, I think it was when I was sitting at front desk, I loved it because I got to greet everyone coming in and I got to learn everybody's name. So it was nice to like get to talk to people and stuff. Our screeners are really cool. We have one screener that loves to bring like their whole life with them.
We all know who that is, yes. And by life, she means like, a thermos, 2 bags of chips, a sandwich, just everything you can, like literally like a homeless person, but brings it all into taxi for screenings.
And an instrument. So it's just like the whole house comes in. And just seeing like the different characters and stuff and how they interact. But they work very hard. When they're in their desk, they're just got their music on. And I'm also kind of like the in-house, I guess. We don't have an IT person, but it's kind of me. So I would help.
Well, we have some out-of-house people that do tech stuff for us. But as far as under the roof,
yeah. But like if people need help, like if your computer's not working, you'd ask me.
Right.
So helping, I would help screeners with that, or like they're like, this isn't working, but our screeners are great. They're great to talk to, great to just great to know, and great people.
They're all musicians and they're all fans of music. They delight in finding something great.
Yeah.
And I think going back to your gatekeeper comment, so many people think in their mind's eye, they see this guy, in Los Angeles, in the industry, being a gatekeeper, sitting there in a cubicle like, going, right, I've held back another one. I've destroyed another life. And it's so not true.
No, they and that's the thing. They love when they hear something good.
Yeah.
Because of course you're going to enjoy if you're listening to a bunch of music and something sticks out to you. It's like, oh, this is awesome. And I used to handle like the top 10 on the website. So I would get the screeners would come to me and tell me like, oh, I just heard a great song. So they'd be really excited, put, the name on a slip. So, yeah.
Pretty cool. Any behind the scenes stories that were just odd or weird or funny? And I should have warned you about that one because I couldn't remember, I do have one funny story about you, but I don't know if I'll tell it. But anything, just...
I'm trying to think.
We're a pretty mundane group.
We are. I think it depends. Sometimes we get weird calls.
Yeah.
So I would get, when I was at front desk, you'd get like people calling and just like leaving a voicemail of them like singing a whole song, and then they'd call back and keep singing. Or like people that phone, or like little kids will call, and we can't talk to them because we can't talk to minors. So I'd just be like, yeah, have your parent call me back, and they're like, I'm 18. I'm like, okay, sure. I'm trying to think if we have any
road rally stories, like doing shots with the staff, or
no. I mean,
I
have one, but I won't share it.
How about, did you ever make it to the parties on the helipad on top of the...
No. Actually, I think one time we went up there. Then we came right back down.
I've never been invited up there. I think nobody wants Dad to be there. But I do remember about 5 years ago, that the room that I get is 2 doors away from the executive lounge on the 12th floor. And the hotel called me at like 4:30 in the morning and said...
that was before me.
No, I think you might have... Anyway, they said, can you come down here, please? Somebody who had a key to the executive lounge let in like 100 other members.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, there were bottles and cans on the floor. It looked like Animal House. I was so
it wasn't
embarrassed.
Me. I wasn't there.
I got so much trouble from the hotel for that.
Oh my gosh!
I was so pissed off with our members.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't anybody on staff.
It was like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had to get up at 6 and like, interview somebody for a keynote on stage. So it was really not cool. So you've become very active in your church. And as somebody who, is used to being a dad and has daughters, I was personally, I'm telling all this stuff today.
Wow.
But it really warmed my heart that you found that community of people.
Yes.
It changed you. I watched you grow up another level because of them. How has that group of people affected your life?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a whole like story in itself. I mean, for me, finding my church, it's called Freedom Church in Chatsworth, California. We have a location in Highland Park as well. So it's in the valley and in the city. I found it on Yelp. And
wow.
Yeah, and I just went in and just like fell in love with the community and we have like a big community, like life groups and, great worship team and stuff. So after like a year, got involved on the worship team. And just being in a community like that with people that just love Jesus and love other people so much. It changed me. I mean,
I watched it change you.
Yeah, it changed me a lot. And, my life definitely was transformed. And I definitely know why, I came out here. I thought it was to become a singer-songwriter or just a songwriter, but it was to, learn there. And so, have the best friends I've ever had. Just like having an amazing community and surrounded by people that like encourage you to be better. Is just amazing. So
it literally, I could see that over a 6-month period, I watched you change. And I remember one day asking you more about the church. He says, just an amazing community.
Yeah.
But honestly, because I've never gone to church, I mean, I used to go to Catholic masses a lot when I was a kid because my hometown had, there were 8 Jewish families and like thousands of Catholic families. So I would go to church with my Catholic friends sometimes.
Yeah.
But they didn't have worship groups. Tell me what a worship team does and how you were involved in that stuff.
So we at my church, it's very high production value, I would say. So I mean, when I started going there, we were in a middle school, so we were set up tear down every week. So I'd have to, and I play keys. So I started actually playing viola, and then I played keys, and then I do worship lead as well too.
What does that mean? I have like 3 friends that are worship leaders, and I honestly really don't know what it means.
Well, it's singing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I also like if you're like worship leader, you might sing like solo.
Okay.
But we mostly call our singers like worship leaders. So, so it kind of consists of, we run a lot of tracks, so we use Ableton. So another thing I learned too was I learned how to use Ableton and run tracks and stuff. So I play keys, run tracks, and I will also sing too, or MD too, which is like music direct. So I'll be the only one on stage with the mic that you can't hear unless you're on the stage. So I'll be directing, like, okay, let's swell here, or like, singers, make sure you hit your cue, because the singers never know when they're coming in. So
how can that be? Don't you have rehearsals?
Oh, we do. But it's always, singers don't learn their lyrics too, which we have a confidence monitor. So that's the thing. People that like do worship are so spoiled compared to like, because I was in a cover band when I was back home. Like I couldn't have a confidence monitor in front of me with all the lyrics.
Right.
So everyone's so spoiled, and even I'm spoiled too. But yeah, so I kind of, and then I headed up our young adults worship team. So was in charge of that, kind of choosing the songs, choosing the team. And
how has that affected you musically?
I think it's made me stronger. I think I always played in worship. I grew up in church and played, every Sunday at my church back home from like 9th grade to senior until I moved. But it just made me a better player. I can play by, when I was younger, I would have to transpose the keyboard so I could play in C. Yeah. And then I got better, so then I could play in any key, and then I didn't need chords anymore. So basically, like, now I can just, like, if I can mostly play stuff, like, by ear, and figure out whatever parts I need to play, and then, being able to coordinate and be like, okay, this person's playing a wrong note or whatever, or make sure that the drums are doing what they're supposed to be doing, stuff like that. So just made me a better musician and more on the ball, because you're playing different songs every week.
has it improved your confidence level about performing live?
No, I wouldn't, because I played like before I moved. I there was like a year that I played like 200 shows or 100 shows in 1 year.
So you're already there.
So by the time that I got, like, I was confident, which is great, because and that's what I'd say, if you're nervous about performing, just do it a ton, and then you won't be nervous anymore.
How are the people in your church going to feel about you?
They're upset.
Is today the last day you're going to... Oh my God, there's people in my backyard. There are people in my backyard.
Oh my gosh. You guys can't see, but it's the staff.
We had a little surprise cooked up for Briagha today.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Aww.
The staff is here. Yay.
Oh, that's so sweet.
All right. Well, so yeah, we've been planning this for days.
Oh, is the door locked? She's got to let
Let
it.
me unlock the door. That door's locked too, Deb.
Oh, it's unlocked.
I unlocked it. Oh, man.
That's so cool.
Anyway, yeah,
Aw.
so we've been planning a little goodbye party for Briagha because we all haven't seen each other
No, we haven't.
in 3 months.
Yeah.
It's been 3 months.
Yeah, it's been 3 months. We'd like have like a couple Zoom meetings, but we don't get to see each other that often.
So, yeah, when you, I was trying to coordinate this like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Oh.
And then when you said, can I take time off Friday to go to
Yeah.
the airport and make Monday my last day? And I said, great, you should come out and do a taxi TV. You just laid this in my lap so we could do this
Gosh.
little surprise. Anyway, so I want to wrap up the episode. We actually, because I know that you've got to get to
I have a class.
church thing tonight, but I just want to say thank you. You have done amazing work. You really have. You have made such a difference in the company and the staff, all those guys standing in my backyard, looking at the squirrels, crows, and gophers. They all love you. We will all miss you. Jacob, you're a very lucky young man. Neil, you guys raised a great kid. We were fortunate to have her, and you will always be part of the Taxi family.
Oh,
So
thank you so much.
we love you. We'll miss you.
Oh, I love you guys too.
And with that, we're going to sign off and go partay in the backyard with some gophers. We will see you guys next week. Who do I have booked for next week? I have some...
You have
She's still working.
who is it?
Oh, Steve Barden's coming
Steve
back.
Barden.
Next week, we're going to do an acoustic guitar cue with Steve Barden. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for an episode of Taxi Quarantini Happy Hour. And thanks for joining us as we say goodbye
Yeah, thanks guys.
to my 5th daughter. Bye, you guys.
All right, see ya.
Bye, Neil. Oh, yeah. Applause.